My name is Chioma Ellis. I am the Regional Growth Talent Manager for Swing Education, specifically for the Northern California region. And today I'm going to talk about the 3 components to wowing a principal. So my name is Chioma, and this presentation is how to wow a school principal. Before we dive into it, let's give you a quick intro of myself. So I am a Teach for America alum. I taught initially in Metro Atlanta, where I grew up. I have a lot of ties to the community. I spent 8 years as a teacher, and that's both in public and in charter schools, and then 3 years as a principal. And I'm currently the talent manager for Swing Education. I actually found out about Swing Education because at the school, the charter school network that I was a principal in, we contract with them, and we got a lot of subs through Swing, and then I ended up hiring 3 of those subs because I just thought that they were amazing, wonderful people, and so I decided to join Swing. So when thinking about a way to make an impact on a principal that you're going to be interviewing with a job for, it's always important to consider, like, what are the different kinds of things that are going on in a principal's mind. And it doesn't matter if this person has just become a principal or has been there one for 20 plus years, it's still the same commonalities. So oftentimes, we're thinking about vision setting. You have to set a vision for the upcoming school year based on data from last year, based on things that went well and things that did not go so well from the last previous year, and then make sure that those things actually happen. Coaching and development is a huge one. As many of you guys know, if you have gone through your evaluation cycles and those kind of things, principals are in charge to make sure that their teachers are getting the professional development that they need and they deserve to continue to grow in their own practice. All things student engagement: are students happy? Are students learning? Are students getting their social, emotional needs addressed? Then we have curriculum mapping. Are we backwards planning? Are we being strategic with review days? Are we differentiating instruction for students who either need the extra help or need to be pushed to the next grade level? Parental engagement: are the parents happy? It's a huge one. How do we engage with parents? Do we talk with parents? Are teachers actively communicating with parents? Is always a huge one. All right, and then just general school management. Are we running on budget, over budget, which is always the scariest thing, or under budget, which is like, yay, you get a good rating for that. So all of these things are simultaneously occupying a principal's mind at any given moment of the school year. So this is a lot. And so you may be wondering, like, with all of this going on, how in the world am I supposed to get the attention of a principal? How am I supposed to make an impact so that I can actually get into a school that I want to work in and I want to grow in? All right, so regardless of all of those other pieces that are kind of floating in the netherworld, there are 3 basics that all principals are essentially looking for when they're thinking about hiring talent. All right, so they're looking for passion. Your passion for doing this work. Your passion boils down to your why. What made you choose to come into education? What made you choose to come to this school, particularly in this community? Iteration. Being an educator means that you're constantly learning and growing and learning and growing again and again and again. It never stops. No matter if you've been an educator for 1 month to 25 years, it never stops. And then connection. How do you establish those connections? Obviously with the students is a big one, but you're not always going to be meeting students immediately when you're coming into a new school environment to interview. So how do you establish those connections even with the school staff, the office manager that you may be running into. Because trust, we all talk to each other. Whenever I went downstairs and my office manager was like, oh, did you see this person? It's like, yeah, well, they were rude to me. Okay, and you keep that in mind. So all three of these are kind of the keys to wow the principal. As you notice, I did not add anything like professionalism, showing up on time. Like, that's just basically assumed, and you're not wowing people by doing exactly what is expected. So I'm going to dive into these three parts a little further. So starting first with passion. And with passion, why? It's always one of the first questions that I asked teachers when I was interviewing, like, why are you here? What brings you here today? This is your opportunity to kind of show, like, to make yourself shine and make yourself stand out and make yourself seem as though like you are already invested in being in this school or in this district. So one particular reason that I love learning what people's whys are is because it's going to be your why that pushes you when things get difficult, things get hard, as they always do. Like year after year when I was in the classroom, like some years would be great and other years would be like, oh my God, I have to go back and teach in this classroom again and again and again. And in my experience, I always saw that every other year was like the tough year. And then when I knew I was going on an even year, it was easier. I don't know why. So thinking about your why, like what is your personal narrative to do this work? So for me, I was a Teach for America alum in Metro Atlanta. I grew up in Metro Atlanta. I grew up in a very low income neighborhood. And so my personal why is that I want to put myself in a position to where I am giving opportunities to students that look and live in places just like I did, so that I can set them up to have a future that they otherwise probably did not have access to. So your why, I advise it to be like a quick, like 20, 30 seconds pitch, because oftentimes in interviews, you only have a short amount of time to make an impression. And then also, big piece, how does it apply to this school? So my why about working in a low-income school is probably not going to be a huge selling point if I'm going to try to teach at a private school where people are paying $20,000 a year to send their kids. So making sure that it does apply to the school, the role that you are interested in. All right, the next piece is iteration. So iteration, you're constantly having to learn and change and grow. I always feel like teaching is, part of it is almost like rolling with the punches. Some days you go in, you know exactly what your schedule is going to be. Most of the times you know exactly what your schedule is going to be. But then, like, what happens if that kid doesn't get that this lesson? How are you going to go back to your schedule and say, well, I do have this unit plan already. How can I course correct within this unit plan to make sure that my students are getting it? So when I think about iteration, for me, it all honestly starts with feedback. So feedback is one of those things to where you don't necessarily have to like wait for it, you can ask for it. One of the things that really impresses me, and one of the reasons I did hire one of like our swing subs, was when I came to his classroom and he was a long-term sub for a teacher that had to leave mid-year because she had a medical emergency. I came to his classroom and I'd say, oh, you know, one thing that you can do to catch their attention is stand over here and use whatever signals or whatever. First thing he did was write it down. Like, that just showed a certain level of initiative, and it showed that he cared about that feedback. And so the next time that I came in there, I saw him do it. I was like, oh, that's great, whatever. And then he would also ask me, oh, so what can I do better? One way to even try to incorporate some level of feedback when you are in the interview stages with a principal, you can even give them a scenario, you can even give them a story, and of course you're going to have to talk about yourself and talk about your past experiences. But then you can also say, yeah, I'm still learning and growing in this area, so any feedback that you can offer based on the story that I just told you would be so helpful. And actually take out a pen and write it down. Even if it's not something you're gonna like keep for a long term, it just shows that you have that initiative to take that feedback and actually apply it to your own practice. And then also seeking feedback from others. For my particular charter network, part of the interview process was a sample lesson or a sample teach. And so some of the candidates that actually did really well would ask even like the kids for feedback during that sample lesson or to teach, or they'll ask the classroom teacher for feedback as well. And then as I was like going through their profile and going through everything within the interview process, I'd also hear like, oh, this person, you know, talked to the kids. This person was proactive in improving their practice. And that's exactly the kind of teacher that I wanted in my school, right? And then another thing that I always highly encourage, and it always wows me, is people who are thinking outside of the box. Always, always, always. Oftentimes you'll get like an interview question, like, you know, tell me something that you did well, or tell me something that was a challenge. If you can bring out some piece of your story to where you could say that, oh, well, this system was not exactly going well. I saw X, Y, and Z happening because of it. So I decided to try a new innovative solution to try to solve that problem. Even if it did not do well, it still shows that you thought outside of the box and you showed that initiative. And the next one is connection. The last one, I should say. I often felt as I was in the interview process with teachers, because for every position that we had open, there were at least like 20 teachers interviewing for that particular position. It's not even necessarily the things that you say, it's the things that you do that mean the most. I put all these pictures here because it's like relationships with children, and I'll dive into that just in a little bit. But all of your different actions are being not watched like in a creepy way, but they're being noticed. So if you're going to a school, or if you're going to a county office, wherever it is that you're having your interview, huge one is just acknowledge the presence of the people that are there. So whether it's the security person, whether it is the cleaning staff, whoever it is, hi, how are you? Where can I find this? Thank you, I appreciate that. Engaging in that small talk means the world, because then those same people will end up talking to admin, and then you'll hear like, oh wow, this person really does seem like they care. They're very present in the situation to where they can see other people other than the principal. Because we had some candidates to where they would just walk by the office staff, they wouldn't say anything to anyone, they'll walk by children, and then they'll put it on for me, which in the moment it's like, okay, this is great. But then the first thing I hear from the office manager, oh, that person was just walked by. That person didn't say anything to me. Then that's going to be the lasting impression that I have. Because everyone in the school, because this is a thing that we teach within, with the staff, every single person is important. It does not matter what their position is. Every single person is important. They have equal importance, and the students should know that, and we expect that from one another. So just acknowledging the presence of anyone and everyone that you run into. You don't have to go out of your way or do anything weird, but acknowledging their presence. Showing gratitude just for the time that you have, especially if you're like interviewing directly with the principal. Principal's days are very, very, very busy. There are often like 4 or 5 other things on the calendar that has to be shifted or moved just to make that interview process happen. So just being gracious. And then again, with the small interactions, one of the subs that I did hire, he was really, really good with like students. So one thing that he did very well, if he saw like a student was like struggling with something, like, oh, I can't, because I was in elementary school, so like second graders like trying to carry all their books and they're like struggling and dropping the books. He would like stop and say, hey, can I help you? Like, it's actually like really, 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 really okay to have those conversations with children. Part of the interview process, sometimes I would have a child panel, a children panel, and they would ask questions of the candidates. Because if you can have regular conversations with kids, and this kids can be like 5-year-olds, kids can be 18-year-olds, whatever, then it shows me that you're ready to be in this space. It's just that basic element of connection. Right. So those 3 things, just to wrap it up. So your passion, your reason why. Your passion is always going to drive you, especially when things get rough and tough during the school year, as they always do. Relationship, connection, making sure that you are showing that you care, being gracious, acknowledging presence, and then iteration, showing that you have a desire to learn and grow and continue to improve in spite of anything, are all 3 keys to wow a principal. So I do have a few resources. So Swing Education, if you don't know, we are a company that basically connects substitute teachers to the schools that need them the most. So we do have a host of resources that we've written internally. Our content writer, Andy, is amazing, and I've also like checked a lot of these resources as well. But the classroom success and overall success are all things that not only a sub can do very well, but just a person that's interested in being a teacher and being a successful teacher could truly benefit from. So those resources are there, and then we also have like, things for professional development. There are always a lot of books and things like that that you can read. And then preparing for the unexpected, because the unexpected does happen because you are an educator and you signed up for it. So, yeah. You're shaking your head like you have memories of the unexpected. I have lots of memories. So if you have any questions, this is a National University link that we have, and then this is my email address. If you have any questions, you can send them my way. All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.